Okay, so have you ever felt like, your eyes are waging a full-on rebellion against you?
Feels like a mutiny.
Exactly. And it sounds like you, dear listener, you've been doing some serious investigating because you've sent us a ton of info on eye irritation. It's like you're building a case file on what makes your eyes go totally bonkers.
And you know what? It is a fascinating case file. But before we go full on Sherlock Holmes on this, let's make sure we're all on the same page. When we say eye irritation, we're talking about like the signal, right? The symptom, not the actual bad guy.
Oh, I like that. It's like the check engine light on your dashboard lighting up. Could be something minor, could be not so minor.
Exactly. And figuring out what's setting off your personal eye irritation alarm bells, well, that takes a little detective work.
Okay, so where do we even begin? Where do we start looking for clues?
Well, usually the culprit falls into one of two categories. We've got our environmental irritants, those external troublemakers, and then we have the internal factors. Those are the things going on inside your body that might be causing the problem.
So, kind of a is it me or is it the world situation?
Pretty much. Let's start with the outside world, shall we? Think about things like, oh, I don't know, smoke,
Yeah.
and not just the stuff you see coming out of a car's tailpipe.
Secondhand smoke, right.
Exactly. Secondhand smoke. And then you've got smog, you've got dust, even that
Yeah.
chlorine kiss after a dip in the pool. That can be a major irritant.
Wait, chlorine isn't just drying out my eyes, it's actually irritating them too.
It's coming for you. Seriously, though, chlorine, it kind of messes with that super important tear film on the surface of your eye. And when that tear film gets disrupted, well, hello, scratchy, irritated eyes.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. So, it's not just in my head. Chlorine really is out to get me.
It might feel that way sometimes. But chlorine's not the only culprit out there. Did you know even short bursts of exposure to certain chemical vapors, like even just a whiff, can do some serious long-term damage to your eyes?
Oh, wow. Okay, now I'm kind of freaking out. Like, what kind of chemicals are we talking about here? Give me the rundown.
Okay, so think about those cleaning products under your sink right now, like ammonia,
Ammonia.
bleach, even some glass cleaners. Those fumes, they're potent.
Okay, yeah, those are pretty intense smells.
Right. And it's not just the cleaning aisle either. Paint thinner, glue, even some nail polish removers.
Got it. So, ventilation is key.
Ventilation is your best friend. If you start to feel any eye irritation while you're using that stuff, get out of there. Give your eyes a break.
Solid advice. So we've tackled the great outdoors, or at least my bathroom. What about those internal factors you mentioned, those inside jobs?
Ah, yes. Sometimes the enemy is within. Allergies are a biggie. Pollen, pet dander, dust mites. If your eyes are itchy and irritated, those are often the main suspects. And then there's dry eye.
Dry eye. Isn't that just a matter of, like, not drinking enough water?
That's what a lot of people think, but it's actually more about the quality of your tears, not just the quantity. And then this is where things get really interesting. Sometimes eye irritation can actually be a sign of an underlying medical condition.
Whoa, okay. Now that's something most people probably wouldn't expect. So we're not just talking about a little bit of discomfort here. It could be a clue to something more serious going on.
You got it. Eye irritation, it's a whole world of mystery sometimes.
Okay, so we've got all these potential suspects, right? Both environmental, the outside world stuff, and then, like you said, those internal factors. But how do we know when it's time to, actually call in the professionals? Like, when is it more than just a minor annoyance?
That's a great question.
Because I'll be honest, I've totally been that person who's like, oh my God, something's in my eye. It's driving me crazy. And then 10 minutes later, it's like, never mind, it was nothing.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's crucial to be able to tell the difference between a walk-it-off situation and a get thee to an eye doctor immediately situation.
Exactly.
And luckily, our research gave us some pretty good clues to watch out for.
Okay, hit me with the telltale signs. What should we be looking for?
All right, well, let's talk about itchiness versus pain.
Okay.
Itchiness, that's usually your body's way of reacting to things like allergens, like pollen, pet dander, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's like your eyes are trying to physically remove those allergens with a good scratch.
Okay.
Pain, on the other hand, that's a different story. That often means something a little more serious is going on, like maybe an infection or even an injury to the eye itself.
Yeah, that makes sense. Itch, kind of like, hey, it's a nuisance. But pain is like, all right, pay attention.
Exactly. Now, another thing to keep an eye on, literally, is discharge. Watery eyes, that can just be your body's way of responding to, being tired or dry air, maybe a strong gust of wind.
Yeah.
But if you're noticing, a thicker discharge, maybe something a little more pus-like, that's often a sign that there might be an infection brewing.
So basically, if it looks like something I wouldn't want to touch, probably don't touch it and go get it checked out.
You got it. And then, of course, the big one, any changes to your vision. If
Hmm.
things suddenly get blurry or you're seeing double, or if you start noticing halos around lights,
Yeah.
that's your cue to contact an eye doctor immediately. No waiting, no debating.
Oh, 100%. That reminds me of this one time I thought I had an eyelash stuck in my eye, and it was driving me nuts,
Yeah.
but I just kept ignoring it. Like, it'll work its way out eventually. Turns out it wasn't an eyelash at all. I had actually scratched my cornea. Oh, wow.
Which, yeah, not good.
No, not good. And that's a perfect example of why it's so important to pay attention to even those seemingly minor symptoms.
Right.
Because what you think is just a little irritation could be something that could escalate really quickly.
Totally, totally. And that experience really made me realize, like, how delicate our eyes are, especially when it comes to, like you were saying, foreign objects. Speaking of which, you mentioned an eyelash. What about those times when it's something a bit more intense? I don't know, like a piece of metal or a shard of glass?
Yeah, that's when things can get serious really quickly.
Yeah.
Our research really emphasized if you even suspect that there's something embedded in your eye, I repeat, do not try to remove it yourself.
Right, right.
That is a job for a medical professional.
Okay, so at-home remedies only go so far.
I'm picturing like those tiny little metal shavings that fly off when you're using power tools, and it's like, nope, not touching that.
Yeah, the eye is incredibly delicate. Even a tiny scratch can get infected and lead to bigger complications.
Yeah.
So it's always, always, always better to be safe than sorry.
100%. Okay, so we've covered the what and the when to panic. Now for the million-dollar question, what can you actually do about eye irritation?
Right.
Because honestly, I swear, even just talking about this is making my eyes itch. It's funny you should say that because I feel like my eyes have been itching this whole time that we've been talking about it. But you're right, let's talk solutions. What can we do?
Well, the good news is that our research turned up some pretty practical advice.
Okay, good.
And the even better news is that a lot of it is like common sense stuff, things that we can all actually do.
All right, I'm all ears. Hit me with this eye-saving wisdom.
Okay, so first things first. The right treatment really depends on what's causing the irritation in the first place, right?
Right, makes sense.
But that being said, there are some general tips that can be super helpful kind of across the board. And one of my personal favorites is the 20-20-20 rule. Have you heard of this one?
I feel like I have heard of that. I think I need a little refresher, though.
It's so simple, but it's brilliant. So basically, every 20 minutes, you take a 20-second break from your screen and focus on something that's at least 20 feet away.
Okay,
It's like a mini vacation for your eyes.
I like it.
It helps relax those eye muscles that are just like working overtime when you're staring at a screen all day.
Yeah.
And before you even say it, yes, this applies even if you think your eyes are perfectly fine.
Okay. Message received. My screen time definitely needs an intervention. All right, what else you got?
Warm compresses.
Okay.
Warm compresses are another surprisingly versatile tool.
Okay.
They can help with all kinds of things, from styes to dry eyes to blepharitis.
Warm compresses. Okay. Are we talking like a warm washcloth here? Or is there some fancy, like, eye spa treatment that I need to know about?
A warm washcloth will totally do the trick, although I'm sure those spa treatments are very nice. Just make sure it's clean, obviously. When I mentioned blepharitis, did you know what that was?
I'm going to be honest, not really. But it sounds kind of scary.
It's not as scary as it sounds. It's basically just inflammation of the eyelids.
Oh, okay.
You might notice your eyelids feeling kind of crusty or itchy, maybe a little bit swollen. It can be caused by a bunch of different things like bacteria or even some skin conditions. But back to the remedies. Along with warm compresses, maintaining good eyelid hygiene can make a world of difference.
Okay, wait, hold on. Don't tell me I need to start, like, exfoliating my eyelids now, because that's a skincare step I was not prepared for.
Nothing quite that dramatic. Just a gentle cleanse daily, especially near the lash line, can really help prevent that buildup of oil and bacteria that can lead to irritation.
Okay, yeah.
And, of course, like it should go without saying, but sharing is caring, except when it comes to eye makeup.
Right. Sharing eye makeup is a big no-no.
Big no-no.
Okay, so it sounds like a little TLC goes a long way.
Yeah.
But knowing when to call in the professionals, like we were talking about before, that's key too.
Absolutely. If there's one thing I hope you take away from this whole deep dive, it's that your eye health really matters.
Yes.
It's not just about seeing clearly. It's about your overall well-being.
100%. Well said. Well, any final thoughts for our listener before we wrap things up?
You know, it's so interesting to think about how much our eyes can actually reveal about our overall health.
Yeah.
Given that link between eye irritation and these underlying conditions like rheumatoid arthritis we were talking about before, it makes you wonder, could paying closer attention to our eye health actually help give us early warning signs for other health issues?
Wow. Yeah.
It's definitely something to think about.
That is a very thought-provoking note to end on. It
Yeah.
just goes to show there's always more to learn, even about something as, like, seemingly straightforward as eye irritation.
Right.
Thank you so much for diving into all of this research with me.
My pleasure.
This was fascinating. And to all of you listening out there, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.